No, I thought that I was... What?
You just put your cup in the cup.
I know, I just did. Well,
It fits.
You can't read the... Oh, you can. You can still... Because you were like, oh, brands last time. So I put my...
I'm always worried about brands seeing us.
Nobody...
No one cares.
No
I
one
know no one
cares.
cares, but I care.
No, I thought I was going to get so much done today. I got up early. I went and got food at our cafeteria. Or, yeah, that's what it's called. It sounds disgusting.
Yeah, but it is.
And
So.
I got the omelet that I crave every morning, but I never wake up early enough to eat because they fucking stop serving breakfast at 10 a.m.
Which is so dumb.
It's so dumb.
It's because they serve lunch at 11, which like
is so dumb.
I kind of get that,
No.
like because people want will have classes at noon till 1, and so it's like you want to start serving at 11 so they can.
You
get their
can
food.
pop your chair up higher.
I can, but don't you like it when we're evenly?
We're not even. I am taller than you right now.
Maybe I can't.
You should be able to pop it.
How's that? Am I?
It's a bit more even. That's fine.
Oh.
That's better. Thinking.
Oh, this feels so dangerous.
So dangerous.
This is not a
Anyways,
good chair.
I had my omelet, and then I went to the library and I did psychology for 4 hours.
Yum.
To be fair, I had done psychology for 2 hours, and then Victoria showed up, and then somebody else showed up, and then no work got done in that hour. And then we had another person show up, and we both wanted to get work done. I'm not saying names because I don't know if they want to say it.
We already said Victoria's.
I know, but Victoria's fine. I know she is.
Okay, whatever. Sure, whatever. Sure.
I'm not saying the other names because I don't know if they want to be on...
I'm saying sure, whatever. It came out wrong. I meant it as sure, whatever. And I meant sure, whatever. As in the good sure, whatever, not the sure, whatever.
There is no sure, whatever. There's no good sure, whatever.
Good. I rescind all statements I've said. I didn't say anything.
Anyway, so then there was 2 of us who wanted to get homework done, but the other 2 didn't want to get homework done, or they're too ADHD to get homework done, and it was a very awkward situation of me looking at my computer, the other person looking at like their computer and trying to do stuff, but then having Victoria try and talk to me and like, yeah, and then I got to a very deep conversation. Anyways, all of the things that I wanted to get done didn't get done.
I feel like you did things, though.
I got psychology done, and I did 2 things that I didn't think I'd do today, which was have a meeting with Jesse and then have a meeting about the podcast, which were things that needed to get done, but I didn't think would get done today.
Yeah, of course.
I had other things. I have to call one of my friends. I'm not going to say his name on the podcast, but he calls me every once in a while. He tries to call me about once a week to just catch up. And he's called me 3 times, or the other day he called me 3 times in one day. Every time I was either in a class or I was at work, so I couldn't answer. But that is very unlike him, because usually if I don't answer, he's like, oh, that's okay, I'll try another day. I'll try like next week. But so that scared me that he had called me 3 times in one day. And every time I was still busy, so I couldn't answer. And so I've been meaning to call him back because I was like, that must have been something serious.
Someone died.
I'm terrified that's what it is, because the last time this happened, his grandfather passed away.
Oh, no, that's no bueno.
And so he was looking for someone to talk to for solace and be like, hey, can I cry to you? Because he's a very man's man.
Mm-hmm.
And so for him, and yeah, so I'm worried that that's what, and I haven't been able to call it. So I wanted to get that done today, and then I haven't. And then after this, we have to go to improv. And then after that, we have to watch Twilight Zone. I can't call him today.
That's me basically all this week. Because yesterday I had class till 6 and I had to go shopping to buy paints. And then I came back and I was tired. And then today I had classes till 3:15 and then podcast right after improv tonight. And then Twilight Zone or whatever I end up doing if I watch it or not.
You don't have to be
and
there
then
for Twilight Zone.
Tomorrow I have I have work up until noon, class till 2, and then Wednesdays are my edit days, so I'll be editing a bunch of projects, like just a bunch of different projects. And then Thursday I have work until 9 o'clock at night after a full day of classes. And then Friday I have D&D on Friday. And so that's the first, like, I get to do a fun thing.
No, so here's the thing. In my head, anything that's a thing I have to do is immediately like just blocked out. Because I'll complain to my mom about how busy I am. And this is just us venting for a second. I know this might not be interesting to all of you guys.
It's interesting to us. We haven't talked about it to each other yet.
It's honestly, but sorry, just let us vent for a second about how busy we are. We know everybody's busy and everybody has the same problems, but this is our space to vent for a second.
Yeah, come on. So shut up and listen.
But when I plan anything, it's like, then that's time taken away from me. Like, and so when I tell my mom how busy I am, she's like, well, you're really not that busy because 2 of the things you just said is hanging out with friends. And I'm like, yeah, it's hanging out with friends, but it's like, But that's time that like I'm doing something, and I want time where I'm doing nothing.
But then but for you, if you have nothing to do, then you freak out.
Listen here. You didn't have to say it.
For me, if I have nothing to do, that's like, that's it. But I don't have nothing to do. I don't have nothing to do because even on Saturday, I work from 8 till 3:15, and that's like most of the day. And then I'll finally be like done until Monday.
See, but it's so interesting how our brains work, like how we rationalize, because I'm thinking like I can't do anything the rest of today, even though 2 of the things that I'm doing today are things that I have chosen to do. I have chosen to be like to help out with improv or to go and view that as an audience, and then I have chosen to sit down and watch Twilight Zone.
And you've chosen to be a podcaster.
And I chose, but it's like. I don't know how to explain it. It's my anxiety brain, and it's the way that I categorize things. It's like, today is out. Nothing else can happen today.
These are the only things I have to do today. Can't do anything else.
Nothing else. And then you said, like, you work from 8 to 3:15, and you're like, that's basically the whole day. It's not. But it is.
But it is.
But it's not, because you still, like, you're going to stay up till 2 in the morning anyway, so you still have another, like, 10 hours.
Yeah, but, like, those 10 hours are...
But they don't count,
They don't
right?
count. They just don't count.
This is what I'm trying to say. Time sucks.
Stop the clock.
Stop it.
Please.
Oh
Jesus.
That's, when everybody asks, like, what superpower would you have? I want to stop time. That's what I want to stop.
Because then you could just do whatever you wanted while time was stopped. But then, like, you'd still be tired when you went to do regular things again because you would have been not stopped. So, like, I guess you could rest during this time stop, though.
Look, I would stop time. No, it'd be great because, okay. No, we can't. We have other things to talk about. But then you'd have to get into the science of stopping time. Because if you stop time, do you still age? Because if I didn't still age and I could stop time, I would watch so many movies, I'd read so many books, and I'd come back like the smartest person on the planet because I just consumed all of the content. Do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, but like...
But if I age, then there's no point in stopping time. Because if I can still age, then I'm not given any extra time.
You're just using your time earlier for everyone else.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well... This is Media for the Intellectually Impoverished. I'm Taylor.
I'm Randy.
And this is the podcast that
enriches your mediocre lives.
What an interesting cold open.
I know.
Oh, man.
These are like the only times that we get to talk anymore.
Wow, it's so sad.
It is really
Every
sad.
other time, it's just like business, business, business. Thing. Podcast is like, hello, friend.
And then we rant. And then it's like, oh, we actually have to talk about stuff.
Yeah, well, it's not like we have to, but we do. We kind of do. I mean, you guys... You guys expect a certain level of like intellectuality.
Yeah, a certain.
Who's calling me?
I forgot what I was in the middle of saying. This was the only time.
The only time we really.
Oh, there's a certain level of like organization or like pulling the whole thing together. We can't just rant.
We could, but you wouldn't find it as interesting. We found that it's not as interesting, at least to us.
Some people, like, because I told you my brother listens to just this part of the episode, and then when we actually start diving into like the media and stuff, because he's not a media person and he's not really like cinema or like that, so he like that's when he turns it off. He just likes hearing us like bullshit, and then.
What are we talking about today, Randy?
Romance. Well, Valentine's Day was just yesterday.
It wasn't for us.
For us, by the time you guys, it'll be next week.
Yeah, it'll have been like a week and a half since Valentine's.
Mm-hmm.
We thought it would be apropos for us to. Is that the word, right? Hey Siri.
I thought it was quid.
What does apropos mean?
As a preposition, it means with reference to concerning.
Okay, you did it right.
I did it right. And we thought it'd be apropos for us to talk about romance, and so we are.
I don't know where to look. Look, I took notes because neither of us, we're gonna be honest. Look, neither of us watched anything or played anything.
And it's not just because like we didn't think we could find something. It was more along the lines that we couldn't find something. And
well, I'm very interested. Like, I have a lot of stuff that I want to talk about, like the romance genre in like general.
Yeah, generally.
And so when Cam, our wonderful producer, scheduled this episode, she gave us like a list of questions, and then from those questions I tried to find answers, and then more questions popped up, and then more answers, and then more questions, and now I am confused as the whole romance genre. Everything.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like romance itself is kind of like a subgenre that you place within other genres. It's not really like itself a genre.
See,
it's
that's
an
the thing that I
action that people
found.
take.
There's no like romance movie. Like there's romance comedy, there's romance drama, there's romance action, horror. It's paired with everything as sci-fi. There's no romance.
Yeah.
The only thing that I could equivalent of just romance would be like a Hallmark movie. That's like, see, but like you can't have a movie that's just romance. What would that even look like?
Right? Because romance itself, I don't think that it can be defined as like the genre, right? Because romance itself is like an action. It's something that spurs something else. So like romance is the spurring action in the comedy. It's what makes things funny is because they're falling in love or they're falling out of love or whatever. And then the hilarity that ensues is because they're falling in love and because they're trying to woo each other or whatever it may be. Romance itself, it's not something that you can see because you can craft a story out of it, right? A story can be a romance story, but it's not by itself. Like it's difficult to put it by itself and make it make sense, and that's confusing.
Well, here's the thing. The thing that kept popping up was romance drama, which I think, well, yeah, because romance, there has to be any kind of movie, any story you tell has to have some kind of conflict. And the only like conflict that comes from romance is like either trying to get together or falling out of love or falling out of like romance or whatever. But then with that comes the drama. So is that what is a romance movie? You'd have to classify it as romance/drama.
Yeah, right? I think that's the closest you'll get to a pure form
right?
of a romance movie is because the conflict of the drama is the romance. They're vice versa.
Yeah. Like you could have just a drama movie.
You can have just a drama movie. Like it doesn't have to necessarily have romance in it. But drama movies usually have romance in them because that's something that sort of, I wouldn't say defines the genre, but it's definitely a bigger part of the genre. You have no interwebs?
I have no interwebs. I was going to look up the definition of romance. I can get internet.
Define romance, Siri.
As an adjective, it means relating to or denoting the group of Indo-European languages descended from Latin, principally French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, Catalan, Occitan, and Romanian. Do you want to hear the next one?
Yeah.
As a noun, it means the Romance languages considered as a group. Would you like to hear one more?
Lord Jesus.
Sure.
As a noun, it means a feeling of excitement and mystery associated with love.
There we go.
There
Would
it
you
is.
like to hear?
Shut up, Jesus.
You're so like nice with her and like unsure, like sure, let's hear another one, and then she gives you the answer you want. Shut up. Yeah, okay.
Who needs you?
The a feeling of excitement and mystery associated with love. Okay, because I was gonna say because there's immediately romance. Obviously, you think of love, but romantic love. I guess that's romantic love, and then platonic love. Could you have is like a story about friendship considered a romance movie? No,
because it's the excitement of the like platonic love. Typically, there's no like excitement. You know what I'm saying? Because like a platonic love is like, man, bro, I love you, right? I love you.
You're not excited
dude.
about your friends?
I'm excited to see them, but it's not the same kind of like, oh my God, like there's no flutter. You know what I'm talking about? Like the chest flutter where it's like, oh, I'm in love with this person and I feel a certain way and I feel excited about loving them. It's platonic love is a different, at least to me, is a different style of love. It feels different than like romantic love.
You're weird.
Why am I weird?
No, I just wanted to say that so badly. Do you know that guy on TikTok?
No.
Like, he's the kid who's like the really annoying kid in class who's always like the know-it-all and is always speaking up to the teacher. Actually, it's this. Like,
yep,
do you know that
yep,
the TikTok?
I know that guy.
And so he says that like in some of his when he's talking to like other kids, he's like, "You're weird," and he says it in that. I love it. Sorry, Victoria says it all the time, and so I was like, I want a chance to say it.
And you did. You said it, and honestly, the joke landed.
I did not.
I was trying to bolster you. I was trying to make you feel better.
No.
Okay.
I only take facts.
You only take facts?
No, stop it. Stop.
I can spout some cold, hard facts if you want.
No.
All right. So what are some of the questions that you tried to answer?
So what would a purely like romance movie look like? It's not possible.
Yeah.
I wrote, but not possible bleeds into every other aspect.
Yeah. I mean, because that's the thing, like what we were just saying.
Well, yeah, but also the fact that every other like romance is something that is added to every other thing. Like I did this with Christmas movies. I did. What was the question that I asked? Like every Christmas movie has a love interest or has love or something in it.
Yeah.
All movies have love in it.
I don't think every movie.
But not romantic love.
Well, yeah.
But every movie has like Friends. Every movie has a romantic partner. You can think of action movies where they're trying to get the girl. TV shows, there's always a romantic interest. Like that is something that is just inherently in every story because it's the easiest thing to add as a driving factor.
That's true. I mean, it's because we as humans feel such a deep connection to like love and being loved, and we understand like its importance as a society, whether or not it's spoken aloud, you know. That's true that like it's one of the easiest ways to get a spurring action from someone is like, you know, a close friend dying, like, right, that's I gotta kill all the dudes. Even Keanu Reeves's John Wick is spurred by love of not just his wife and such, but like the dog that I believe his wife leaves him, that then gets killed. He then goes and kills a shit ton of people just because the dog died, but deeper because his wife died.
Well, even in like movies or TV shows when like there's always a romantic interest. There's always somebody. I mean, I feel like I can't think of one. At least I'd have to sit down and really think about like all the movies I've seen, which is what I was trying to do earlier. I can't think of like just a romance movie. Like that was my thing. That was the first thing that I wanted to say when you were like about I couldn't, and I think that's why we didn't choose anything, was because when I think of like, I can't think of a movie like a romance movie. Like for someone who is obsessed with love and loves love, I could not for the life of me think of like a romance. I can think of movies that have romance in them. Like anything, like look at all the Marvel movies. There's constantly people like falling in love and getting together. Or like think of Forrest Gump and you could cast start the Tom Hanks movies. There's always a pursuit because it's the easiest. Like I was saying, it's the easiest thing to like go after, and it's the easiest conflict to add because everybody pursues love. And everybody is stopped in some form or feels that they can't achieve it, or there are conflicts in that pursuit. Yeah, and even if it's not like the driving factor, I would say that it's nearly a good second like plot line. Yeah, and even not even a second plot line, like even just a throwaway joke, right? In like a comedy thing, it's just because I was thinking like The Sandlot, where it's like, yes, they're all friends and they love each other, but there's also the lifeguard scene. See, it's everywhere. I'm telling you, it's in like everything. And it has, and like as much as it's like a story device, but it's also just the way of like humanity. Like we are all, as human creatures, like we are all vying for love. We all want to feel love in some way. We come into this world, like our parents is immediately like love and affection, and hopefully. Like I need this person. Yeah, but well, I mean, as a baby, like you need them. Yeah, you need them, and it's like. And until you can understand what love is, right? There is, but there's also like, well, I get what you're saying about like, well, hopefully, but I think that's something that's inherent in us is love. Yeah, I think that as even as a human, baby, if you don't understand, if you can't put a word to it, you can't say that it's love. I think you. I don't know. See, that's like a psychology and philosophy thing. Like, at what point does a baby start to understand the feelings of love and actually, you know, express love, right? I think that. To some extent, when you're a baby, like you're just an angry child who wishes to be fed. Acceptance. You know? I'm trying to figure out what it is then, because there's something like even unfortunately, or if there is a situation where the parents aren't giving love to the child still wants something from the parents, is still vying for acceptance, is vying for attention. I think that once you hit like a cognitive age, right, where the baby can express themselves, or the child can express themselves in some way, I think then there's like love and such, like, because I know that when my nephew was born, when he was little baby, like I don't think that there's any form of love coming from him. He's receiving a lot of love from family and my brother and sister, but he's not giving love until he was about 5-ish months old, 5-ish. Okay.
4 or 5, around then is when he started because he's an awesome baby. Like, he's the best baby. He doesn't cry that often. He's not super fussy. He's just really sweet and chubby and just a happy baby.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, like, once he starts understanding like laughter and like joy and starts receiving those emotions, I think then I saw some spark of like, yes, there's love. I'm receiving love from him because he's expressing it, right? Like, he's hugging people, or he's giggling, or, you know, stuff like that. When he starts expressing emotions, I think that's the point when you're like, that's love that he's expressing, or you can say that you receive love from him. Because up until that point, he's just like, you know, cry when you're hungry, cry when you need a diaper change, you know, just like that's his way of communicating, is crying, because that's really all they can do. They just make noises. So yeah, I don't remember how we got to babies and love.
Well, because I was talking about it's inherent in humans, and then where does that like see? But it has to come from somewhere, and so it has to come, like you were talking about philosophy. It has to come from birth, or like. Well, now I'm thinking, well, what if you like never showed a child love, but they'd still crave it? They'd still crave
affection, right? Because I think it's just inherent within humans, and within, like, you even see it with like gorillas and monkeys, like the babies. There's a probably really unethical study, but a study that was done where they had a bunch of like baby chimps, and they had 2 robotic mothers. One robotic mother was just like wires and metal and shit, but it provided like food.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one did not provide food, but it was warm, and it had like a fur kind of thing on it. And the babies would choose to cuddle with the fur one just because it was warm and it felt more like a mother. And they perceived some form of love, and they wanted some form of love, whereas the jagged sort of metal one does not, even though it serves a purpose.
It provides a necessity, but
it does not provide affection. It does not provide warmth, and so they chose that over the jagged one.
That's interesting. Well, romance. So the next question that Cam wrote down here, we kind of answered the, like, anyways. How do you do it right? How do you do it right, and how can you do it wrong? Romance as a genre.
Well, I think how can you do it wrong is probably easier to answer.
Yeah.
Because we've all seen bad romance, or romance that doesn't make sense. I can't think of an example.
I go to Hallmark movies.
Hallmark movies. Yeah.
But why? Because it's, I want to hear what you say first.
Well, it's because it's cheesy.
Yeah, it's cheesy. It's too, like, perfect.
Too perfect. I think that's what it is.
It's too planned. It's too, like, choreographed. It's not natural. And that's what keeps, the thing that I think we're going to keep coming back to is, like, love is so inherent in us that we know it when we see it. That's why you can watch any, like, movie that has a love interest in it or a couple in it, and you can immediately tell, like, the actors have to have chemistry with one another, or all of it just feels completely fake.
Oh, yeah. But I totally agree. Like, when you can tell that actors don't have a chemistry, or like the actors don't really like each other, it shows. And it's because they're lacking something that we can perceive as humans. Like, because like you're saying, love is so inherent in like human biology. It's so wired into our brains that in the same way you can pick out whether or not a face looks human, you can pick out whether or not a relationship looks romantic, and if it feels correct. And you're right. The Hallmark movies are just so planned out. Like
they're so choreographed. It's such a, like, a beat by beat by, like, unnatural kind of, like, love, unnatural and, like, unreachable, like, standard of love that it's like you can have that in movies where you can have, like, fantastical loves or things, but it's to a point where, like, that would never happen in real life.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I used to watch. I wouldn't finish them, but my mom and I, during Christmas time, would just pop on Hallmark movies and see what happens. And it's just like business girl. It's always like a business girl.
We've done this bit before, but go ahead.
It's just a business girl goes down and meets a hot, strapping young man, and then whatever. And
he teaches her the importance of Christmas.
Yeah, and then it's perfect. But the romance part, it's just like she doesn't understand the importance of love, or she's had bad relationships, and so she's not opening up. And then suddenly,
and then he touches her hand.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the world opens up.
It's crazy. It's like the smallest, dumbest things will be the things to make an immediate and huge shift within a character, which is the problem, right? Because you can write about romance, but you can't dilute the drive of your characters. You can't dilute what your character stands for, who they are for the romance.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That takes away from a lot of the character development you'll see outside. You can have a character develop to understand love and then to perceive it and to, to open themselves up to it. But you can't have a character sort of break their moral values immediately within a moment of a certain situation for that. It's not believable because we don't typically work that way. That's not what humans do. Humans change gradually. And so if you're writing a story about that, you should be writing it in the way that it happens, in a natural way that slowly changes, and which represents what we actually do, which is what stories should do. They should represent the human life.
Do you believe in love at first sight?
I think that term comes in hindsight. I think that a lot of people say they had love at first sight did not really have love at first sight. I think there was a mutual attraction, and I think that is what that is. And then in hindsight, it's glorified to become this romantic story, which will touch the hearts of others and be like, oh, I can find my Prince Charming. I think that it is an immediate mutual attraction.
Okay.
At first sight. Okay. And I think that that's not necessarily love, but
I would agree. No, that's what I wanted your stance on it before, because I completely agree. I think, like you're saying, it's as much as I wish that was a thing, I wish that there was like that movie moment when you see somebody across the room and you're like, that is the love. Love is so much more complicated than that. And I think that's what you were trying to touch on, or what you were saying. In movies, that connection can happen way too quickly. Not only does it take away like from the characters' personalities and their own personal drives, but then falling in love. Like, I get it's a movie and you have to wrap up the whole story in like an hour and 30 minutes. But to go from meeting somebody and then within 2 days being like, I love you. And it's like, that's a big jump to make.
Can you do that again for me?
No.
Please. There we go.
But that's what you want. That's what I want. I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but that's like...
I think that... But the thing with movies is there is that idea of like you can change it temporally. It doesn't have to flow day to day to day to day. It doesn't have to be a real-time hour and a half for it to do that. And it doesn't have to be a week. Like if you want to write a romance story and you really want these two characters to fall in love, you can
do that over time. No, there's no question about it. But specifically in like Hallmark movies, or I can even think of some TV shows. My guilty pleasure is Heart of Dixie, which I haven't seen in forever and I really want to rewatch it. But that's what that happens. Like, it's love at first sight, and then within like 3 days, it's like, I love this person and I want to be with this person, and there's with somebody else, and it's like, then that's the whole drama of the show is. But there are, like, I'm not saying that there aren't romance movies where they are able to capture that love, like, over time. There definitely are. But it's when that comes way too quickly. You can feel it. You can immediately feel it watching it. You're like, that's not right.
Yeah, and I think that a show that does this pretty well is How I Met Your Mother, which I've been watching a lot of recently, just because Chris has been watching it because he's like, I want to see it because everyone's talked it up, and he likes sitcoms a lot. And so he's like, it's just the next thing on his list, and so I'll sit down and watch a few episodes at a time. And I'll miss a lot of stuff. But from what I've noticed, like their stance on love, because the show it's a comedy, right? About this old man telling his kids how he met their mother, if you've never heard of it for some reason. You looked like you were going to do a bit.
Just trying to breathe.
Okay, good luck.
I had anxiety, so I was trying to do deep breathing, but go ahead.
But the whole show is about love and about meeting the mother and that quote love at first sight, and it's all told in hindsight, right? So you can see, even if there is those moments of like love at first sight, it's played up as a bit, and it's played up as unnatural to the point where like a lot of the characters will make fun of the other characters for having that love at first sight.
It's very meta. It's very like the characters and their pitfalls like are very much pointed out, and especially in later seasons. Like, I'm very surprised that you're already picking up on that, because you get to the last 2 seasons, and the way that everybody calls each other out when it comes to like love, and the way that it's like, you shouldn't, like, why do you, like, it's just meta. It's meta.
Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, it is a great story about like love and meeting people, and I think it's hilarious.
It's so good.
It's so well written, and I'd seen a lot of like clips here and there, and I'd always heard about it and be like, well, whatever, it's just another show, but it's really kind of not. it kind of stands above a lot of sitcoms in my opinion. But you look like you have a thing to say.
I'm just upset that surprises you, or that you didn't.
I just didn't watch it because it just wasn't the show. The show in my family was MASH. We watched MASH every day. Every day, MASH was on in the house.
There's love in MASH too.
It's a lot of love in MASH, but like, I think How I Met Your Mother does a better job of.
That's like the main focus of How I Met Your Mother. Is like, especially somebody who was. I didn't watch it when it came out, but I think I started watching it right as it ended, like a year or so after it ended. I started, and so the whole time you're genuinely wondering, when is he going to meet the mother? Because it has, like, that's the title of the show. They have to wrap it up. And so, like, that's all of it is love. It's relationships. How do you make relationships work? And what are the pitfalls of relationships? And
yeah, and so it doesn't sugarcoat like the romance, right? Like there's their names, Ted and Lily. No, Ted. No, what? Who does?
I'll tell you the names.
Tell me the names, please.
I will, but I want you to just sit in this moment as someone, as a sitcom connoisseur.
I'm not.
It's okay. But I am, and I want you to feel bad. No, okay. It's Marshall and Lily.
Marshall and Lily.
Yes. Ted Mosby. He's the one who's telling his kids how he's met the mother.
Yes.
Then there's Robin and Barney.
Okay. Yes. So Marshall and
Lily.
Their story is
and Lily Pad.
Is the quote love at first sight. But then as it goes on, you realize it might not have been that, and then it was a whole bunch of other things. And
the olive theory that's been broken since like the start. So good.
But their story, because there's stories about each person, like their story is all about like being in a relationship, being in love, what it's like to fight, what it's like to be in a long-term relationship, and how that's funny and how that's weird and how that is romantic and how it is lovely in all these different ways, because it's telling the story of these two characters that have been in love for 5 years. And then they
longer than that, but go ahead.
Yeah, for however long they've been together, and then what that's like for them. Whereas Ted is kind of finding girlfriends here and there. And
I love the dichotomy of the show because it's showing all types of relationships. It's showing the relationship like in its like the end goal, the marriage, and then inevitably kids and the home life and the family and everything, while at the same time showing Ted in his pursuit of that end game. And then even with that later down the line, you see other types of relationships. You see like friends with benefits and all of like it's showing you every aspect of love with all of these different characters. And it's so good to see how they like complement each other. How you like, even if you get to the end game, it's not perfect. Like Ted has this idea of, I want to get married, I want to have kids because I would make a great dad, I would make a great husband. Like he has this one speech that I like memorized because it's so good. But you also at the same time that's superimposed with like Marshall and Lily like fighting and like getting angry at each other and almost to the point of like they don't want to be together anymore, and they almost you haven't gotten there. Never mind. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but there's a lot that it's so good to see the dichotomy between the two like types of love.
And then you have the other character Barney, who is legit just a wingman. He's just a one night stand dude. He's a playa, and his shtick is it's all to the extremes, right? Like his extreme is like I date one girl a night and then I forget about her, or I just run away and then I never talk to her again. And then
have you seen The Perfect Week?
No.
Okay. Oh man, there's so many things.
And then Robin is sort of the female version of Ted. Right? I think in that she's still in that pursuit.
Opposite of Ted.
She's the opposite of Ted in that she doesn't. She is his antithesis,
that she doesn't need a relationship. She doesn't necessarily want a relationship. And yet she keeps finding herself in the place of falling in love.
Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
See, because I don't see a whole lot of her because I don't watch it as often. I usually get the episodes that are just Ted because I like Ted.
Ted's amazing, but he is the one who is constantly in pursuit of love. He is that's what's on his mind 24/7. How do I need to find a girlfriend. I need to get married because I want to be a husband. I want a house. I want to build my house. I want to fill my house with children so that I can one day tell them the story of how, like, that's his whole thing. The show is so meta. And Robin is the exact opposite. She's like, I'm an independent woman. I have my own career. I want to like follow my career. I want to be like a world like news anchor. And yet she still finds herself in this situation of falling in love and then having to make a decision between following love or following her career.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. This show, if we were to pick a show or something to represent like love and romance in media, I think that this might be the one.
Yes.
Because all of the love feels natural. Even the quick ones, because they have the ability, it's a sitcom. It's a very fast-paced sitcom, takes place over a span of 5-10 years. or something crazy.
The last season, there's so many things I don't want to say because it's so good. The last season, the last 24 episodes takes place over 3 days.
That's crazy.
They have 24 episodes that take place over 3 days.
That's probably around 3 days of content.
What do you-
20 minutes an episode, 24.
You could finish it in a day.
Could you?
I could. I break the laws of physics.
Yeah, you break the laws of you freeze time.
I freeze time. That is the secret. That's how I know time because I am able to do it. I've been tricking all of you. No, but
that's how I finished all of these sitcoms.
That's how. There's so many more that I want to watch, but like How I Met Your Mother is one of like the top tier ones, along with Friends. Friends is more. Well, I was researching sitcoms the other day, and so. And I don't know how to explain it because all sitcoms are like adult based. Like there's a lot of like adult humor in it. But How I Met Your Mother takes that to the extreme. And there's even like a season or it's about a season where they meet a psychologist who is constantly like pointing out like all of their pitfalls. And like, do you guys realize that you're all like really codependent on each other and like you guys can't live without one another? And the fact that like you guys are openly talking about your sexual lives and the fact that you've all like kind of dated each other. Like he's constantly pointing it out. And it's the funniest thing. But it's very much more adult or like more mature.
I think it's much more mature.
It takes place in a bar and it's just all about like love and sex.
It's all about love, sex, and like life around that. Like and what it looks like when your life revolves around that.
Whereas like Friends is like it's exactly what it is. It's like Friends, but there's still love in that. But
it's not necessarily love-centric. It's more friend-centric, right? It's more about their relationships and what that looks like for everyone. And I don't watch a whole lot of Friends.
And you can take that, and that's okay, but you can take that, like, it's so interesting just the idea of How I Met Your Mother, because you can take that into other sitcoms. You can take it into New Girl, The Office, Parks and Rec, however many other, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where these are all much, like, they still talk about, like, love, and there's romance, and there's people that you vie for, and there's people you're seeing their relationship, how it works out, the pitfalls of it, the realness, the fantastical versions of it, but it's still very muted compared to How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, compared to that, because I mean that's the crux of the show, and that's and it works because there's really no other stories out there that are romance centric that really portray what it feels like to be in a relationship accurately. Because like you were talking about The Office, it's one of the only other ones I've seen.
I need to watch more sitcoms.
I do, but I spend every game is about 60 hours. So like
yeah, your thing is video games, and that's okay. But sitcoms are where it's at.
But it's just it's The Office is obviously more about like the comedy around the office and what happens when people get together to work together, and then why the characters are crazy and goofy.
Oh my gosh, Community is so good.
But it's How I Met Your Mother is romance centric, and it's funny because of the way it takes everyone to the extremes of one end. It's good.
I hope they listen to this episode and that they know that we hate them.
There are people making noise outside the door.
There's people like down the hallway that have been like talking about the weirdest shit
all day with the door wide open,
and screaming it into the void. And so I hope they're watching.
They're not, but I hope
I hope you know that we hate you.
we severely dislike you.
Yeah,
in the words of the Plain White Tees, hate is a strong word, but I really, really, really don't like you.
I what's his name? Descartes. What's his first name? Chris.
Aaron?
No. There's the guy who plays man, I forgot all the names. Anyways, there's a YouTuber that I follow, like a Twitch streamer that I follow. I was gonna shout it, Brian Descartes.
Okay, all right.
No, but he said something really interesting, and he must have gotten it from, or maybe he is this just poetic, but he said something about hate. He said hate is only for the unloved and the unnatural.
That's cool.
Right?
That's cool.
I love that.
It's cool.
Because his wife had said, like, oh, I hate this person or I hate this thing. And he's like, no, you don't hate it. Like, hate is only for those who are unloved and unnatural. And she was like, oh, yeah. And she stepped back. She's like, I strongly dislike it. And I was like, that's like the most poetic thing that I've ever heard.
I don't know, man. I was writing some real poetic shit last night. Poetic. I'm a great poetry.
You were not happy last night.
I was not. I'd had a bad day. And I was just
Grumpy pants over
I
here.
was real grumpy, and
Like, I was talking to Victoria today, and I told her, I was like, Taylor was like really rude yesterday. Like and she was very surprised because you're not like, I get like you get like isolated and you want to be by yourself, but yesterday it was just like to an extreme of like you were like rude, and I was like, oh shit.
Oh, was I rude? I didn't mean to come off that way.
I could have taken it because I take things the wrong way. So it felt rude, but
I think it was just I was really upset, and I wanted to be around people, but I didn't want to talk to anyone, and I didn't want to interact.
We constantly tried to talk to you, and you'd look up, and then you'd go back to doing what you were
because
doing.
I tried to see if anyone was talking to me, and then no one was like. They were just all looking at me instead of like saying a thing.
Well, because we were like, are you gonna like actually interact with us? Like, because Josh multiple times tried to like talk to you and like tried to show you a joke or tried to show you something on his phone, and you'd look at him. He wouldn't say anything. You wouldn't say anything, and then you'd just go back to doing what you were doing. He was testing to be like, "Are you gonna talk to me or not?" And then you'd go back, and he's like, "Well, okay." And he turned to me, and he like started talking to me. Like, anyways.
I'd had a really bad day, and I'd had a rough night, and I was just talking to a friend before I went in about some stuff that was real tough. And I got in, and I was just gonna get loud, and I'm just gonna get really upset. But I want to be around people, so I just put my headphones in, and I started drawing, and then I started writing afterwards. And it was just, I was at this point where it was just like, I just can't. I don't have the social battery to talk to anyone right now. But I have this creative bug that I need to get out, and I can't do that by myself in my room. And so I was just like, I'm just gonna sit, I'm just gonna write. Then after I finish, I'm gonna and I'm feeling good, I'm gonna take my headphones out, I'm gonna try to interact. But you guys left before like I did that.
Josh had to go to work. Also, I was getting fed up because, well, again, I take things the wrong way. And so when you were like being rude or like I was like, I did something wrong. And so I was like, if I did something wrong and you're not going to tell me that I did something wrong, and yet you're going to ignore me and be passive aggressive towards me, then I'm going to do the same to you.
I didn't do that.
I know, but that's how I took it. And so like, I just stopped, like everybody was still like trying to get your attention. I was like, I'm done. Like if you're going to be like rude, you be rude, and I'm going to do my own thing over here.
I didn't mean anything rude by it.
I know that now. Plus, and then you like, this morning you texted me and you were fine. I was like, oh, so he wasn't really mad. He was just like,
nope.
Yeah.
I was just, I just had a bug, and I was like, I need to get this out, and I need to write, and I need to do all these things. Because you get that way sometimes as a creative, and I think it's just been an especially tough 2 weeks for me. And it was just, it's all boiled down to like, I don't feel like I've had rest or solid creative time to get out what I've been trying to get out, and to be confident in my work, and to be confident in my storytelling. And I was just, it's my home. That was my house, and it's where I live. And I just like, I needed to be working, but everyone was out hanging out, and like, I couldn't do that. And I knew that if I unplugged, if I took out the headphones, if I started talking to people, I would not get back to work, and I would not finish the things that I wanted to do. And it stinks. And I feel bad that you guys took it and you were upset by it, but
I was probably the only one who was upset by it. Nobody else probably was, but that's just how I am.
Okay.
You're
I'm sorry.
Okay. It's okay.
Yeah, and I'm fed. I'm
not like, I don't care now.
Are we okay? Is the podcast gonna end?
No, we're fine. No, I just take things when somebody's upset, like with Kat and Kim, like we don't talk to them for a while, and I'm like, everybody hates me.
They hate me so much. And then they're like, do you guys want to hang out? And you're like, yes, please.
I just think everybody hates me until proven otherwise.
You're like the opposite of the legal system.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Okay, we talked about some of the things. The best form of media that shows romance the best is TV shows, in my opinion, I think.
I think so too, because you have more time to explore
to really develop characters and really develop that like relationship.
Not to say that every television show is a banger when it comes to romance, because I would say there's plenty that are not.
No.
But yeah, I agree.
There's also books. I've been reading a series recently. It's A Court of Thorns and Roses. And it says, I was complaining to Victoria about this, and I'm going to complain here because I need to complain to somebody.
And then why not 30 of you?
Don't tell them there's only 30.
You can't tell them because then they'll know.
No, they don't know that we have like
tell your friends that we exist if you listen to us.
Please.
Because we're cool.
We are really cool. I won't hate you. I won't think you're mad at me.
I might.
No, I will think you're mad at me. You gotta tell all of your friends. I want you to tell 5 of your friends, and I want them to tell 5 of their friends. This is your
homework.
Yeah. No. So the book that I've been reading, it's really good, and I really liked at first I thought it was cheesy, but like, A lot of romance when it starts off, I feel like, is cheesy.
Mm-hmm. Romance itself is kind of inherently cheesy to an extent because it's just
like awkward, and it's love, gross.
Ew! Oh my god.
But so it's really good. It does a good job of developing like the characters and the main protagonist, Feyre. That's how I've been saying her name. It's probably wrong, and everybody can correct me. I've been saying Feyre.
It's only in written format, so no one except the author can tell you how it's spoken.
That's true. She's very like standoffish, and then the guy that she's like going to eventually, her love interest, is like trying to like, it's a very like Beauty and the Beast story where like it's, I need you to fall in love with me because like I don't want to be a beast anymore, and so how do you like, it's Stockholm syndrome, all that kind of stuff. It's great.
I love Stockholm syndrome.
I know, isn't it great?
It's such an interesting story dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
But they're eventually they fall in love, and it's cute, and I love it. And then the second book, they throw it all away.
Throw it all away.
All the way. All the character development is out the window.
Not the whole window.
The whole window.
Oh my god.
Tamlin, the guy that she like is her love interest, who she's about to marry at the end of the first book. Mm-hmm. Spoilers.
Oh my god. How dare you? I like how you give the spoiler warning after the spoiler.
It's okay. How many of y'all read?
Not me.
Anyways, they're about to get married at the end of the first book, and then the second book starts, and all of his like characteristics about like being protective and everything are like turned to toxic. Yeah.
They're turned toxic.
No, toxic. And he's always been a protector and has always wanted to like save her and like be like stay like let's like I want to protect you and I want to love you and everything. Where in this book it takes it to the extreme of like you cannot leave the house. If you leave the house, like I will lock you in your room and you have to stay in the house.
Damn.
It's crazy. But why? They didn't have to do that because I love them as a couple. And now she has a new love interest.
No, not a new one.
She does.
I bet you he's gonna come back and she's gonna swoon and he'll catch her. And that's exactly what's gonna happen.
She has run away where I am in the book. She's run away from Tamlin and his like kingdom because they're a bunch of like
his
kingdoms.
regime.
Yes, and so she's gone to this other guy who's now her new love interest. Obviously,
of course, she has to be. Everyone that's in power has to fall in love with the protagonist.
Yeah, all of the kings have no queens for some reason and are looking for them. So I don't know. There's nobody. There's no marriages in power currently. They're just a bunch of kings.
Bunch of dude energy.
Just a bunch of male energy. So she's run away, and like he's like, it's crazy, and it makes me angry, like how fast the shift happened, and so that's why I love it, but I hate it. Like I get it, but I don't.
How much time passed between the first and the second book?
None.
None. It was just like.
Yeah, the end of the first book, it's like, okay, the big bad guy's gone, and now we're gonna get married. Next book picks up like a week later, and it's like, okay, we're still getting married. Like, here's our wedding day.
But he's like, if you leave before the wedding, I will shoot you. Watch out.
So she doesn't want it, because she can already see it within like the week, like where it's the whole first chapter is like exposition of like what's happened in the past week and how like he's like changed and like he's like whatever. She's meant to be like this pretty princess now who can't do anything for herself. And then she doesn't marry him, and then she runs away. Or like he locks her, like the main like climax of the first like half of the book is he locks her in the house, like to the point where she can't leave. Like the whole like thing is magical, it's fantasy. So he locks her in the house, and then the other guy comes and saves her, and she's like, how could he do that to me? How could he lock me in like the house? Why would like that's like so messed up? And yeah.
And he's like, I know. By the way,
but yeah.
I'm single and very handsome.
That's
and the king of my own kingdom.
And he's like, look at, like, I see the power in you, and I want to use that power for good. Fight with my army. And it's like,
and then she's like, appreciation.
Oh my gosh. It goes by fast. That's the only thing. But my point is that books, like there are a lot of good books out there who do romance well. It goes back and forth with this. I don't like how fast it changed, but I get why it had to change. And it also kind of makes sense because I could see how like being protective could be taken to the extreme of being like over like protective.
Yeah, but you could have put some time between.
There could have been a lot more done. Like there could have been a whole nother book between that book and this book.
Yeah, that could set that kind of thing up. But without conflict, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
and that's the pitfall, right? Like if you want to create a quick conflict, it's just like you want to change your character quick. And I know that's not necessarily what the episode's about, but sort of piggybacking off of the idea of like quick changes for romance, like you can't really change your characters quickly without due cause, without a major spurring event, something that causes your character to rethink their place in life, or to be suddenly thrust into another situation which forces their hand. You can't just he's changed because he's changed,
Yeah,
and that's
'cause
why he's
yeah,
changed.
Exactly.
Maybe you'll get to
Exactly.
the end of the book and a magic spell will have been cast on him. And
See,
then
that's what I'm
whatever.
thinking. Like, there has to be, because that's kind of like what the twist was. Because I didn't know it was like a Beauty and Beast story until the very end when the
Mhm.
spell was broken, and it's like,
Mhm.
oh my god. So I think that's kind of what's gonna happen here. But then to do that same trope like twice in a row, it's like,
Yeah, I mean, it might be a little bit of a lazy writing, but what can you do? Not write it.
that's true.
That's the thing you can do.
I know we're running out of time, but
Mhm.
there's one last thing that I wanted to say because I did do a lot of research on this. So I looked up a lot of romance movies, just what came up on like I was gonna say YouTube on Google
On the Goog.
because I couldn't think of like romance movies off the top of my head.
Neither
but
can I.
There's a lot. Like I got Titanic, I got When Harry Met Sally, The Notebook, West Side Story, Juno, Casablanca. I got 13 Going on 30, Little Women. 16 Candles, a bunch of like these like older and newer things. Marriage Story. Anyways,
Marriage Story.
so I was going through because I got to the point in my research where I was wondering like who is romance for? Because it can be for anybody and it should be for anybody. And I'm specifically talking about like genders. But I feel like in our society and like leading up to where we are, romance is more like a girly thing. Like the girls are like the ones who want like the guys to be like gentlemen and like do the roses and like be romantic and like
Mhm.
and like that's what they like want. And so I started thinking, are romance movies geared towards women? And if so, are they doing like a good job of it? And then who is writing these romance movies? Who's directing these romance movies if it is meant to be geared towards women? And all of these movies, and there's a bunch more that I've listed out, all of them are written and directed by men. Men are writing, which it doesn't bother me, but I was just trying to get into like the gender like mind, and maybe I'm completely wrong that like romance is geared towards women. It shouldn't be, but I feel like that's kind of where we
I feel like
are.
society says romance is for women, and so there are a lot of stories that are written for women.
But men are writing these things for women.
And that's the thing, right? But I also think that when it comes to story is for everyone. Whether or not you resonate with the story, that's up to you, but it should be for everyone. And I think that there are a couple stories in there that, like Marriage Story, is amazing.
Mhm.
And it's a
I haven't
weird.
seen it, but you said it's amazing.
It is amazing. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's a weird twist on the romance genre because it's not about falling in love, it's about falling out of love.
But it still classifies. I was very shocked to see that it still classifies as a romance movie.
Because it is about the romance
Yeah.
that was. And it being written by a man does not, to me, diminish the story because.
I'm not trying to say that. I wasn't saying that men like diminish
And
the
not
story.
even in that way, but it's like, but it doesn't surprise me either, because in the movie itself, I would say leans toward the male side of the story.
Okay.
But it does not, like, I think the female's perspective in the story is not poorly written. Then again, I'm not a woman, so I don't know.
See, that's why I was hoping we'd be able to talk about this more, but it's okay if we don't have time. It's just kind of like this last thing that I'm throwing out there. It was just because, like you're saying, like it's a societal thing. I feel like in society, it's like women are the ones who are obsessed with like getting married and having children and like starting like the love aspect, where men are kind of like they're not, the general like society thing. Like men aren't in touch with their emotions, and men like so they don't like. That's just kind of like what happens, and like they have to be the man, they have to be the breadwinner, and so that's
not the wed.
Not the wed. I just thought it was interesting. There are some in here that are written by females, and I'd love to do a deep dive and specifically watch those movies and then compare them to ones that are written by men. None of these are directed by women, by the way. There are some that are written by women.
Mm-hmm.
All of them are directed by men.
Yeah, and I think that's just the problem with the industry.
That's true. But it also, like, being a direction, you're putting your views into that story then. Even if it was written by a woman, you are then coming at it with the male perspective of like how love should look and how it should, the interaction and everything. There is one, Little Women, which I haven't seen, and I know Kira talked about this when she was a guest on our podcast in episode whatever
14.
Yeah. That one was written by women and directed by women, and so I'd love to see that and see what it's like.
Yeah, she talks very highly of it. The other one that we talked about that day, Lady Bird.
Yes.
Phenomenal movie.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal movie. Believe I've also written and directed by a woman.
Probably by the same woman. I'm Greta Gerwig, I think is her name.
Who directed Lady Bird?
Like, what the fuck did you say? It's not gonna tell you.
We're gonna find out. Greta Gerwig.
Yeah, I was right. So I think she wrote and directed Little Women, and so I'm assuming she did the same thing with Lady Bird.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
But I just thought that was interesting, and then I started going through like the male gaze and the female gaze because I also find that very fascinating.
It is. I think that it's two very, very different perspectives, and they create very different types of media, and you can tell the difference when you watch it. Specifically, like movies and TV shows and stuff like that, when it's written and directed by women, even though there's like a huge scarcity of women in the industry, which I think it sucks.
That's its own problem.
It's its own problem, and I hate it because it's like you're missing a whole side of storytelling in the industry. But anyways, besides that, like you can see the difference in the media, and it's so interesting to me how visually different you can get just because someone else is directing it or someone of the opposite sex is directing it.
It's so fascinating to me. And if I had the time to watch, I'd watch all of these movies and then compare them in the direction of how love is being portrayed, not only through the writing, but through like the direction of it. Because the men they don't have to be, but I would feel like they'd have a big hand in like the different like style of how how the love is being portrayed. I thought it was interesting.
Real quick, one of the last things I want to ask, because we got like 2 minutes left.
I know, we'll be fine. This will be a longer episode.
Yeah, it's okay. This is just total tangent. What are your views on having sex scenes in movies?
We need more time than this. Oh my gosh. I was watching okay, well you asked specifically sex scenes. I do not think that they are necessary.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I think that, and I'm glad that we agree. I think that including an insinuation of sex is useful in and of itself because sex
that is fine. Yeah.
Sex can be a major point in your characters.
Yes.
It can change the way your character thinks about relationships. It can change a lot of things about your character, but you don't have to show someone having sex to be like they had sex.
Nope.
Right?
Yeah.
And I even think that like for me, if I were writing a story, I think that the pillow talk scene while everyone's naked in the bed, also unnecessary.
See, that's not too bad.
That's not as bad. And
it's not as bad. I could see, that's what I would do instead of like a sex scene. I could see like, that's how you insinuate that something happened. There's a book one of my friends recommended that I've been meaning to read. I think it's called the Wheel of Time series, where it's because I love Game of Thrones, but the really big pitfall of Game of Thrones is all of the sex and all like the naked, and that's not my thing. Like that makes me uncomfortable. That's a personal thing, and I understand that. But the Wheel of Time series, it's along the same lines of like fantasy and kingdoms and vying for power and dragons, but the way that it handles the romance, it's very quick. It's very like one line. And as she was describing it to me, she's like, you don't even know. Like, you'll read it and then you'll be, wait a minute, did that mean they just did that? And then it's like, yeah. Like, I wish we could see that more in movies. Like, just the smallest thing. I don't know, you could see, like, a bra on the ground and, like, that's all you need to know, that they had sex. Like,
yeah, and it could even be like I don't know, like a pan away. Like, they start throwing clothes everywhere and then you pan away.
And that's it.
That's all you need. And I think that Game of Thrones is a great, terrible example. Because it's just so gratuitous and vulgar in its sex scenes, given the source material, I believe, is also that way.
I haven't read the books. I've started the first one, got halfway through and had to stop.
But my thing is just like, you don't need it. Like, right? Like, I think someone told me once about like the Game of Thrones writers use this thing called sexposition, where it's exposition told during a sex scene.
Yes.
Yeah. And so why?
Yeah.
Why?
To make the exposition more interesting.
That's not interesting. I mean, I
no,
feel like
I get what you're saying, but like they also like you can see like in our society and the way our society runs, you can see why there was so many sex scenes and why that had to be a vital part of the show. Was like how they got a decent chunk of their audience.
It is, and it's stupid, and it. I think for me, it's just. I think it alienates a certain part of your audience, and not even just like from.
I for the longest time wouldn't watch it because of that. And then I had to I got to because the first season's where it's the worst. And so I was literally like skipping scenes because it's not my thing to get to like the meat of, because it's incredible storytelling. Like it is, and the visuals are beautiful and I love it, but those I can't.
Yeah. And I think it alienates your audience to an extent. like you're saying, like some people just don't like to watch it. Like I don't like to watch it. It makes me uncomfortable. Think about it. You want to take your family to watch it together. Like you don't want to watch sex scenes with your family, but like so you all have to go individually watch this story to take in this story. Like
or even not with family, like even with like friends or like even with people that you're like generally comfortable with, it's still an awkward thing to be viewing together.
Yeah, I watched Gerald's Game with someone recently, and it's just uncomfortable. Even like if that person knows you on a pretty significant level, like it's just uncomfortable to watch sex scenes.
Even if it's like a significant other.
Yeah.
Because I've been in situations and we're watching, like we watched Game of Thrones together, and even then it was like awkward. It's like this isn't like.
It's just difficult to be in a group setting and take in a story with gratuitous sex scenes like Hereditary. I watched that.
That's another
not Hereditary.
one.
Midsummer.
Yeah.
I watched Midsummer for the first time with my brother, and it was just like, it's just weird because like that the sex is not necessary, but it does provide a certain point of tension. And Ari Aster uses sex a lot in his stories to cause tension and create tension. What is sex in general? But that's a whole different episode. But it's just like it's just so uncomfortable to do that.
I'm trying to think. There has to be situations where it's like necessary to see. I wonder, like American Psycho. Like
I've never seen it. Don't spoil it. It's on the list and it's coming up. I'm watching it soon.
Never mind. You might change your.
Oh, the camera's dead. No! Well, thanks so much for joining us on this episode. We will catch you guys in the next one.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Oh, I hope it's saved.
Oh, shit.
Media for the Intellectually Impoverished is hosted by Trey Taylor Smith and Miranda Randy Zapes.
Produced by Cam Ritchie and edited by Kat Trapella.
You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at MFTII Podcast.
Subscribe to our YouTube at Media for the Intellectually Impoverished or email us at mftiipodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening.